Bonjour class, today we're going to learn about noun, article, and adjective agreement. It can kind of seem like a lot at once, but just bear with me and hopefully it'll make sense. So we're going to learn what a noun is, learn what an article is, learn what an adjective is, and then talk about what it means that they are all in agreement. That's very important this year when we're studying French together. So first of all, what is a noun? A noun is a person, place, or thing, and in English, nouns have numbers. They can be either singular or plural. Like if you say I have one dog or I have 3 dogs, singular and plural is what we mean there. There's the same in French. So we have le café and then les cafés. Notice how when you go from singular to plural, you add an S at the end of café. It sounds the same, but there is an S there. And then the article changes too. We'll talk more about what the article is and why that changes later. The one thing that's different, this exists in Spanish, so if you speak Spanish, you're hopefully familiar with this. But in English, nouns don't have a gender. It just is what it is. But in French, nouns also have a gender, so they're what we either call masculine or feminine. So for example, café and bibliothèque, those are both singular, but we see that café is masculine, has le, and bibliothèque is feminine, and that has la in front of it. So it's important that we remember that nouns can be either singular, plural, and then also masculine or feminine. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. If you're talking about a male, the noun will be masculine, so l'acteur, l'ami, le chanteur, l'étudiant, le petit ami. And typically, if you're talking about a female, the noun is designated as feminine. So l'actrice, l'amie, la chanteuse, l'étudiante, la petite amie. You can see how nouns go from masculine to feminine. Sometimes, though, it's not that obvious, and there are some that can be either one. So, for example, le professeur, even if you're talking about a female professor, it's still le. La personne, even if you're talking about a male, that is still la. And then there are some that are just ones to figure out, ones to memorize. It doesn't necessarily make sense why desk is masculine and thing is feminine. That's just how it is. The one trick that we have is that most of the time when something ends in an E, that's usually our hint that it's feminine. So la chose, la différence, la faculté, you get the idea. So these are a lot of ones that we'll memorize together starting soon. If you do have one that's mixed, if it's a mixed group of males and females, the men win out and it becomes masculine. So les amis, even if it's 5 female friends and 1 guy in there, it's still masculine. Same goes for students. So even if we had a class of 27 girls and 1 guy, it would be les étudiants masculine. And then we begin with the articles. Based on whether the noun is masculine, feminine, singular, or plural, we have different articles that we need to use. Articles we know from English as either the or a. It's just the little word that goes before the noun. So in English we use the no matter what. It never varies for number or gender, but in French it changes a lot. So if you're talking about something that's singular, masculine, it's le. If you're talking about something that's singular, feminine, it's la. If you're talking about something that's plural, it's les, no matter what. So masculine singular, le. Feminine singular, la. And then plural, masculine is les, but also plural, feminine is les. So that's why it's really important to not only pay attention to whether or not something is singular or plural, but also to memorize whether it's masculine or feminine. And then no matter what, if it comes before a vowel, it'll just be L apostrophe, because the French love the way that their language sounds, so they would never say le ami. They would just run it together, l'ami. And they would never say la université, because there's that pause in between. They don't like that la université. They run it all together, université. And similarly, the indefinite article for a will also change. So if it's masculine singular, you use un, feminine singular une, plural des, no matter what. So this is all of our equivalent of a. So for example, this is an instrument, a table. Some instruments, some tables. It's a little bit different than English, but the difference between le and a is there as well. So let's practice a little bit here. So first of all, if we're trying to choose the right article, we need to decide whether or not it is definite or indefinite. If it's definite, then we use a French translation of the. So le, la, les, and L apostrophe. Reminder that for le, you use that if the noun is masculine and singular. La, you use that for if the noun is feminine and singular. Les, you use that for if the noun is plural, whether or not it's masculine or feminine. And then you use L apostrophe if it comes before a vowel. Indefinite would be un, une, and des. Un is for a masculine singular object. Une is for a feminine singular object. And then des is for plural. Difference between definite and indefinite, if it's where you'd say the, it's definite. Le, la, les, le, those are all ways to say the en français. Un, une, des, those are ways to say or some. Then to choose the right article, you have to decide if the noun is feminine or masculine. If it's feminine, your options, your possibilities are la, une, les, des, et l'apostrophe. If it's masculine, you have le, un, les, des, et l'apostrophe. Those are all the possibilities if it's masculine, and these are all the possibilities if it's feminine. Then you have to remember whether or not the noun is plural or singular. Plural is les or des. Singular is le, la, un, une, el, apostrophe. And then lastly, does the noun begin with a vowel? If it begins with a vowel, you have it pretty easy, because a lot of the times you can just cheat and do el apostrophe. It makes your life a little bit easier. So let's try one example. Il y a, there is, blank, we have to choose the article. Librairie, bookstore. It looks like library, but it actually means bookstore. Là-bas, over there. So first thing we have to figure out is it definite or indefinite? Is this the only bookstore ever? Do we need definite, or is it just one of many and we can use indefinite? So in this case it's indefinite, so we know we can narrow it down to either un, une, or des. So then the next question we have to answer is it feminine or masculine? And we have a pretty good guess because there's that E at the end of the word, and it is feminine. So we've narrowed it down. It will not be un, it will be either une or des. Last question, is it singular or plural? We don't see an S at the end. There's no S. The S usually indicates if it's plural, so since it's not there, we know it's singular, and we know we're going to go with une. So let's try one more example. C'est blank, this is ordinateur, computer, de mon oncle, of my uncle. Is it definite or indefinite? It's going to be definite because this computer is specific. It specifically belongs to my uncle. So that would be le, la, les, or el apostrophe. Is it feminine or masculine? It's masculine. We don't see the E at the end, so we have a pretty strong guess that it's going to be masculine. So now we've got rid of la, because la is only for feminine. Now we're left with le, les, and el apostrophe. It's singular or plural. We don't see an S at the end, so we can guess it's going to be singular. So either le or el apostrophe. But does it start with a vowel? In this case, it starts with O, so because it starts with a vowel, we've narrowed it down to el apostrophe, so that's our answer. If that gets confusing at all, feel free to rewatch that part about the articles. It takes a lot of practice. So once we've got the article to match the noun based on the gender and number, we get to do the same thing for the adjective, get to do it all over again. So just as a refresher, adjectives describe people, places, and things, and usually they point out either a physical appearance or a personality trait. There are a lot. Don't feel like you need to write all of these down because the beauty of this is these are all cognates. We talked about in class, a cognate is a word that has the same meaning in two languages and looks the same. So if you look at these, there are a lot that will be easy to remember, although they're in French because they're very similar to English. For example, charmant, charming, différent, different, difficile, difficult, pessimiste, pessimistic, sincère, sincere, timide, shy. So these are all very important. And you'll see that at the end of a lot of these, there's an E in parentheses. We're going to find out what that E goes for. If you are talking about a feminine noun, you add that silent E at the end. That's what makes the adjective change from masculine to feminine. So if there's no E at the end of an adjective, we guess that you're talking about a masculine object. So you add an E for feminine and then adding a silent S to the end of the masculine and feminine forms gives you the plural forms of both. So for example, here we have Henri, Henry, so that's masculine and singular, et élégant. Masculine and singular, we don't have to change anything about the adjective. We just keep it the way it is. But then if we stop talking about Henri and start talking about Patricia, Patricia est élégante. It's feminine, so we add that E over the end. There's no E here for Henri, but over here for Patricia, we stick that in at the end. Then here we've got masculine plural. Henri et Jérôme sont élégants. Because it's plural, there's more than one, we add the S at the end. That's like when we see an S at the end of a noun, we know it's plural. When we see an S at the end of an adjective, we know it's plural and applies to both. But then if we talk about Patricia et Marie sont élégantes, we do add the S because it's plural, but we also go back and put that E before it because it's feminine. So the E at the end, just like the E typically lets us know that a noun is feminine, the E at the end of the adjective does the same thing and tells us it's ready to describe a feminine object. Usually, the adjective comes after the noun in French. That's a little bit different. In English, we always describe the adjective first, like we'd say the red wall, but in French, it would be like saying the wall red. I know it's a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same way as in Spanish. So you want to flip things around. So instead of saying les étudiants brillants, in French we would say brilliant students. But just think about the order there instead. Again, don't feel like you need to write any of these down. This is mostly to show you the different ways that we describe people based on nationality in French. A lot of them are pretty familiar. Like we have Mexicain, Japonais, Anglais, Américain, Canadien. They sound very similar. And you'll see the E in parentheses at the end. That means if you're talking about a woman of her nationality or a girl, you add that E to make it feminine. And then you'll also see in English we capitalize the first letter of a nationality, like we'd say American with a capital A, majuscule, but here they use lowercase for all the nationalities. Here's a few more adjectives. Again, you don't need to write these down. This is just to give you an idea. We'll be coming back to these for reference later in class. But bleu is blue, blanc, noir, petit, grand. We've already come across a few of these. Jolie, pretty. So Angelina Jolie's name, literally her last name is Pretty. So just a few fun facts there. I know that we've talked about how if there's an S at the end, then you need to add another thing to make it plural. But if there's an S already at the end of an adjective, you don't have to do anything to it. So for example, Pierre est un ami sénégalais, Senegalese from the country in West Africa. There's already an S there. So if you're talking about two people, you don't have to have double S at the end. Just one is fine. And like we've talked about, adjectives go before the noun. There's a few exceptions. If you're talking about beauty, age, greatness, or size. So that acronym is BAGS, B-A-G-S. If you're talking about beauty, age, greatness, or size, then it will go before the noun. So those are the exceptions. So beau and bon, those are like beauty, grand, size, gros, size, jeune is age, that means young, jolie, we said means pretty, so that's beauty, long, size, nouveau means new, so it has to do with age, petit, small, so it has to do with size, and vieux has to do with age. So those would all be ones that go before the noun. Those are the exceptions, not the rule. The rule is that adjectives go after the noun. These are the exceptions. And that's it. I know that was a lot of information. I'm really glad that you're listening to this and taking notes. Please feel free to rewatch any of it or email me if you have any questions. And ça c'est tout. Fin. Merci.